8 days before the rally, local police are informed. 5 days before the rally, they meet with the Secret Service and they're informed that the rally will be held at the Butler Farm Grounds. 3 days before the rally, Secret Service conducts a site visit. Just 3 days before they conducted the site visit. At that point, no counter sniper teams. On the day of the rally, 9 a.m., they hold the briefing. 46-page slide deck only from the local Butler ESU. Local SWAT and sniper units are there, but the staging locations are laid out. Secret Service doesn't attend. According to attendees of the briefing, no Secret Service or other federal law enforcement is present for this briefing. Secret Service had not initially intended to provide sniper units, but changed course for currently unclear reasons. The briefing included an outline of the security perimeter for the event and areas of responsibility, or AORs. At 9:27 a.m., concurrent, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the alleged shooter, enters a Home Depot located in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. CCTV footage shows the shooter entering alone. A couple minutes later, he purchases a 5-foot aluminum dual platform ladder. That's the only time we see the ladder, by the way, Tucker, in this timeline. The ladder disappears after this. 9:42, he leaves. They identify him. 10:30, snipers are in position. And this is interesting.
Can I just ask, so that morning, Crooks buys the ladder.
Yes.
So that suggests he's already figured out exactly what he's going to do.
He's got an idea.
Interesting. Okay.
So the ladder's in place. 10:30 a.m., 2 local law enforcement snipers are in position on the second floor inside the AGR building, the American Glass Research Building. So they don't go to the roof of this building. They go inside the second floor. They sit there. They're looking out the windows, but they never actually go to the roof or apparently to the back of the building to see where this guy came up. 5:10 p.m., Crooks is first observed by one of the snipers, AGR Sniper 1, at the AGR building. And he takes the picture below of Crooks. Not long after that, and I'll show you these in a second, they can put up, AGR Sniper 1 takes a picture below of a bicycle and what appears to be 2 bags located near the AGR building. It is unclear what happened to the bicycle and bags after July 13th, 2024. And take a look at that.
So they're saying that Crooks rode a bicycle to the event?
There's a van that's later found outside the event in sort of the parking area that's about a mile distance from this AGR building. That is Crooks's van. That van is, we're told, contains explosives, homemade explosives, and explosives that are connected to a remote controlled detonator, which is later found on Crooks's body. So the idea being then, if this bicycle is indeed his, parks the van, gets into the bicycle, carries his rifle, slings it on, you could see the bags in the photo, rides the bicycle from where the van is, that mile distance, to the back of this building.
Okay, so then I'm getting to the next part. I'm sorry to take this from you.
And actually, I'm just realizing that I don't believe in the senator's timeline that they have the drone.
What drone?
Crooks's drone. Unless I'm missing it.
He has a drone too?
It's now been reported that he, at some point prior to 5:10, so around 3 in the afternoon or so, when things are still getting prepared, he's there with a drone flying a flight pattern around the area of the Butler Farm Grounds.
That's insane. You can't, I mean, I just know from living in DC, you can't just operate drones around law enforcement. It freaks them out.
No, or Don Jr. told me, and I think he said in one of his recent interviews, that when his father was at his house for like an event, like a family event and a party, that he wanted to put up one of his drones and the software wouldn't allow the drone to even take off because a Secret Service detailee was in the vicinity. My cousin was getting married in southern Pennsylvania, which is pretty close to where Wilmington is, and she wanted to have a drone up at her wedding. And because Biden happened to be in Wilmington at that point, she's within that 30-mile radius. You know, the photographers come to her and say, "Hey, we can't do any drones here."
This is crazy, and it's also sophisticated. So the guy's got. It seems like he's got a van, explosives, a bicycle, a rifle,
a drone,
a ladder, a drone,
a rangefinder.
A rangefinder. I'm going to ask you about that in a second. And the guy knew this was coming. This wasn't a spur of the moment thing. He's buying the ladder that morning. And he's making a shot that everyone is sort of, I know everyone's like, oh, it's not 140 yards, not that far. I think it was 140 yards.
It's a boot camp shot.
Yeah, boot camp shot. Still, I don't know. I fired that rifle yesterday. You kind of have to.
With no scope.
He had no scope?
No scope, iron rails.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He used iron sights to hit someone.
He used iron sights.
In the face at 140 yards.
My take on that, and just my assessment, was that he knew that because he was lying prone, he knew that a scope or an EOTech or something would present more of a picture to any counter snipers. So if you wanted to stay lower, if you wanted to stay more out of sight, and he's using the angle of the building to conceal himself, that you wouldn't want something.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on this whole thing. I'm trying not to use swear words. Excuse me. This is not plausible. This kid's a 20-year-old, much bullied, socially awkward, weird kid who washes out of the rifle team because he can't shoot. He's got no social media profile. His search history suggests no research into any of this, and he sounds way too sophisticated.
And what the videos that they're not talking about are the fact that he appears in this like BlackRock ad, and as well as a number of YouTube videos regarding computer programming that he was in the previous.
Okay, so I know that all your former military. I wasn't even in the Boy Scouts, but I shoot a lot. I have all my life, and I just disagree with respect with all the former special forces and CIA guys and guys like you. I think 140 yards with iron sights hitting a man in the face, pretty good shot. I'm just saying that. I do. No one else agrees it's a boot camp shot, but this guy didn't go to boot camp. And as someone who also didn't go to boot camp, but shoots a lot, 223, a lot, including yesterday, I think it's a decent shot. I do. It's hitting steel the size of a tea saucer at 140 yards with iron sights. Like, that's not, I mean, I think I could probably do that, but again, I shoot a lot.
Well, and Tucker, there's another piece.
But for a guy who's 20 years old, like, how much range time do you have? Like, where did he learn that?
There is some reporting. So this was his father's gun.
Yeah.
And so after flying the drone, he drives all the way back to Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which is a distance of about an hour, both ways. So he drives an hour back, says, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to take the gun out." And the dad later tells media, at least as of right now, and caveat to all this stuff, because we're going off of what we have right now, that the dad says, "I thought he was going to the range." So this sounded like that was a regular thing that he did.
Okay. Then that's, I mean, it's not a crazy long shot, but it's just, but you kind of have to commit a little bit to learning how to operate the rifle if you're going to hit it 140.
Listen to this part, because if you want to talk about the shot, so a lot of people think that he was just sitting there prone, waiting for the opportune moment. Trump happens to turn at the last moment. That's it. That's not what happened. What happened was a couple of these local police officers, and we've gone through the timeline where they take the picture of him, they're radioing the messages back, and Trump's team, the actual team around Donald Trump, doesn't get any of these messages, because the easiest thing to do would be to say, "Hey, let's check that guy out before we bring the president out on stage." They never relay the message to Trump. They never give that to his team, his direct body detail. They never hear about this guy. So there's a threat. There's a threat that's identified an hour prior. They're taking photos of him. They're checking on him. They lose sight of him. That's when he goes up on the building, we're told. And they're calling in saying, "Hey, there's a guy. He's got a rangefinder."
Okay, so that's what I want to ask you. So will you explain for people who aren't familiar with the device, what's a rangefinder?
So a rangefinder is something that somebody might use in site surveying. Someone might use in laying out a plot of land, or nice barn like this one or something like that.
And in deer hunting.
In hunting,
yeah.
And of course in a sniper team, a rangefinder is used by the spotter. So sniper teams are always called that because you've got a spotter and a shooter. Right. So the spotter is the person who's doing the range finding. They might be calculating wind. They might be.
It shows you the distance.
It gives you the distance
away from something you're looking
from whatever it is. Right. So you're painting it with a laser, and you're saying.
So if
this is how far away
you're trying to protect, the most controversial political figure in the world at an outdoor rally, and someone shows up with a rangefinder, like, you can't even bring, at the RNC, you couldn't even bring your Juul, and you couldn't even.
You couldn't have a vape in there. Yeah.
Right? Because it might increase your testosterone, and that's a threat. But how do you get a rangefinder into a protected event? That's like the craziest thing I've ever heard.
So he never goes in through the magnetometers, as far as we know. There was reporting early on that the rangefinder was found in the magnetometers, but the current reporting, caveat, is that he always stayed outside the effective Secret Service perimeter, that there's this whole range of fencing. By the way, for the record, I'm not saying anything about what I think right now. This is the official story.
Right.
So there's this whole setup off to the side of where Trump is standing, where there's a fence and there's nothing. There's no Secret Service. There's a couple of patrols. There's these guys in the building. Anybody could have walked up with anything.
How does the kid know where that unprotected area is?
So he's casing the area. He's going there prior. He's flying the drone. He's checking it all out. But for whatever reason, he just knows to ride the bike directly there, and then he's going to have a direct shot from the top of the roof.
This kid doesn't have a job. I mean, he's 20 years old.
He works in a nursing home.
I'm sorry. That's right. I read that.
Very, very tactically.
No, but that's right.
Job.
He's changing bedpans by day, but he somehow is able to assess exactly the place that's got the height advantage, this building, and that is unprotected. Like, how would he know? I mean, the luck involved is extraordinary.
It's more than just this luck, because we're also told, and again, this timeline doesn't quite have it, that at one point the local police, the Butler police, do go out. And they send a couple of units to go, a couple of guys over to go and say, hey, we think there's someone on that roof. We're not sure why the sniper team inside the building doesn't just go and check the roof of their own building. But some guys who are on the ground, one officer hoists the other officer on his shoulders. So it's not that high of a building, to say, hey, take a look up there. And they couldn't find any ladder from their vantage point. They go up there. Officer sees Crooks. Crooks turns, trains the rifle directly at the officer. Officer ducks down, and we're told that, again, based off of this officer's reporting, that at that moment, Crooks swings the rifle back around and begins firing at Trump. So this wasn't a situation where he was sitting there, lying in wait, totally unintercepted, and fires the shots. We're told that those shots ring out within seconds of him switching his sight picture back and forth from the officer back to Trump.
So I think, again, as a non-expert, but a lifelong shooter, I think that's a pretty adult shot. Like, do you? I mean, you're in the military.
Being able to switch the sight picture that far at that range, maintain your cool, and still get off a shot which has a little bit of connection to the ear, that's a fantastic shot.
Oh, it is, right? Okay, good. I'm glad someone said. I keep hearing, everyone on television's like been in, Delta Force or something, and they're all crazy accomplished shooters. But for a non-veteran with no law enforcement background to make a shot like that strikes me as
Although I would say
amazing.
The one thing that I would just add, though, is that in the military, and I wasn't like some sniper or anything, but very basic level of training, and some mountain training and stuff like that, that you're not trained to go for headshots. You're trained to aim center mass.
That's right. Of course.
And that's any basic firearms course is going to train you center mass. Why? Because the heads turn.
Yeah.
So the head turns, the head moves around. That being said,
it's a smaller target.
It's a smaller target, center mass. You've got your central nervous system. So you've got the brain stem, you've got your spinal column, you've got lungs, you've got heart, you've got all sorts of important real estate right here. So as long as you're somewhere along that parallel axis, you're gonna more than likely hit something. And you've got more of a sight picture. So you've got target-rich environment if you're going for center mass. And to this point, I have not seen reporting on whether or not Trump was actually wearing a bulletproof vest that day. I don't think he was.
He was not shot in the chest, by the way. There was early speculation that he was. I asked him directly. He said he wasn't.
Well, and that was something with Reagan, too, because Reagan does get hit. And at first they thought it wasn't that bad, but later it turned out there was internal bleeding and there was just other stuff that was going on.
So how, from the video we have all seen, the counter sniper, Secret Service counter sniper is lying prone, and he clearly has the shooter in his glasses. He's looking at him. He does not shoot the sniper until after the sniper has shot Trump. How could a Secret Service counter sniper look at a man with a rifle 140 yards away and not shoot him? I don't understand that.
So two schools of thought. One option is he thought it was a police officer. Because remember, the local police are supposed to have control of this building. and they don't have any communications with local police. And there have been so many times, Tucker, at events where someone from one agency, because they're dealing with these augments, they're dealing with people from, and there's a ton of HSI from Homeland Security that are there. There's a ton of these other local agencies. You've got multiple agencies going around, which even worse at the RNC, but I think there was like 130 different agencies that were at the RNC represented. So if you don't have good communications because you didn't go to the meeting, then you have no way of knowing, hey guys, do you have someone on that building or not? Because I see someone with a rifle, doesn't look like a police officer, and he's aiming his rifle at the president. Yeah, so the question, Tucker, though, is if you know that at that point, why isn't your first call to your detail sitting right with the president and say, hold him. Don't let him go on that stage.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.